Tasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vashata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasadi Gau Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. We welcome everyone. Today morning reading. We're resuming after a couple of days. So we are on the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Last time we read 54th, 55 and 56 verse. 56 were read or 55? Up to 55? 50? Up to 56 is done. 57 translate or we read. Okay. So what's happening, just to give you a background here. So text number 54 talks about Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Na Sochati Na Kankshati. That stage. And then Prabhupada says in 56, Bhaktyamam Abhijanati Yavan Yas Chasmi Tattvataha. Actually, the bhakti begins when one reaches this Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma stage, which means when one is free from anxieties and hankering. How many of you have an experience when you chant the holy names of the Lord, and if there is some let's say a deadline of project at the office, or let's say, what do you say, आपका annual होता है ना, reprisal, right? Appraisal. If you say it's an appraisal week, how many of you say, I mean, although we are moving the beads, my mind is somewhere else, yes? Na sochati, na kankshati. So unless one is freed from there, so 55th verse says, then is the time actually bhakti begins. Text number 56, Krishna talks about his protections. He says, my devotees never perish. Sarva karmani api sada kurvano mad vapashraya. Mat prasadadavapnoti shashvatam padam avvayam. Those who have taken to my shelter, who have attained my shelter, vayap ashraya, they are under my protection. Mat prasada, they are recipient of my mercy. Shashvatam padam avvayam, the eternal, and they reach the eternal abode. We have discussed in the past also how Lord Shri Krishna again and again, he gives this kind of affirmation. He reaches to my eternal abode. So this concept of spiritual world, Lord Shri Krishna brings back again and again. Now, text number 57, where Krishna says, thus become my devotee. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matparaha buddhi yogam pashritya macchitta satatam bhava. Chetasa means endeavors, which are of course performed by intelligence. The purpose is by intelligence. Sarva karmani. So all kinds of activities, all kind of endeavors. Mai sanyasya. Sanyasya ka matlab kya hota hai? Giving up. Giving up what? Whenever there is a work discussed, let's say sarva karmani, and then sanyasya means what? Giving up work? No. Fruits of work. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya. Giving unto me. Matparaha means take my shelter, come under my shelter. Buddhi yogam upashritaha. Buddhi yogam equipped with buddhi yoga, upashritaha, taking shelter of macchitta. Macchitta matlab becoming one in consciousness. Be conscious. Can you close the doors inside? This is on, right? Macchittaha satatam bhava. 24 hours a day. In all activities, just depend on me. Work always under my protection, and in such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. All of you move forward. I don't know how much light, but no backrest. Move, all of you. Nobody's sitting with the backrest. You're not old right now. You're going to go and sleep off. The first sign of ignorance during the class. Come in between. There's a space here. Vishwakiran, you. Here. There's a space out here also. You don't need to sit on the mats actually. The tiles itself is a mat. Okay. All right. Translation and purport. Translation we read. Purport by Jivangi Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Purport. When one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as a master of the world. Just like a servant, one should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by profit and loss. He simply discharges duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Now, one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna. But when Krishna is not present, how should one act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as under the guidance of the representative Krishna, then the result will be the same. The Sanskrit word matparaha is very important. It indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna. And while working that way, one should think of Krishna only. I have been appointed to charge this particular type of duty. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. Wonderful, wonderful point. Many times people ask, how do you perform Karma Yoga? What does Prabhupada writes? I have been appointed to discharge this particular type of duty for Krishna or by Krishna. So therefore, whatever we do, we have to see a relationship of that action that we are performing in relation to Guru and Gauranga. It is best if in case we are directly advised or instructed. Even if we are not directly instructed, there is a general instruction that you should take care of yourself. You should work. You are in a particular ashram, you have to do that. But you should see that I'm working on behalf of Krishna, I'm working for Krishna. But again, thinking doesn't happen only, there has to be an action. Now you're performing one kind of action which produces a result. Matvarha means you have to use the result also in service of Krishna. And how much to use percentage for sadhakas at the beginning stages? They can begin, let's say, maybe 5% or something. At least there has to be benchmark. If too much freedom is given, you decide our conditioned nature is such and our upbringing could be such, we'll not even give 0.5%. And giving 0.5% will say we are working for Krishna. 99.95% went to whose pocket? So that is not working for Krishna. So somewhere we have to set a benchmark, 5%, 10%. As long as you are in Madhyastha Ashram, you don't have too many responsibility. Once you become a family man, then expenses increases. This is must for sadhakas, somehow we can give our time, we can give everything. When it comes to giving money, how many of you agree? It's difficult. Raise your hand. अरे मेरा फैमिली बैकग्राउंड ऐसा नहीं है, मेरे घर वालों का खर्चा बहुत है, मेरा खर्चा बहुत है, ये वो करके चला रहता है. I would say give a try. Trust my word. Give a try. Do it for 6 months. Just do it for 6 months, contribute something. And then see if situation changes. Is it something because you're contributing some 5%, 10%? Someone in your house is dying of hunger, or people are dying out of hunger. It is just but our attachment. And if in case we don't fix it now, particularly I'm talking to the youth here, those who are yet not married, imagine what will you do after getting married? What will you do after getting married? Is there any hope, scope for it? No. So it's extremely important, those who are taking training, this should be a part of the training that they contribute compulsory. All right, mat paraha. Very beautiful line. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. I have been appointed to discharge. Haribol, where our Prabhupada course. Mark this golden point. Let's begin from today. So how to perform your duty? I have been appointed to discharge this particular type of duty by Krishna. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna Gana. This is a quotation for all working fellows. One should, however, note that after doing something whimsically, he should not offer the result of the Supreme Lord. Thus, our duty is not in the devotion service of Krishna consciousness. One should act according to the order of Krishna. This is a very important point. That order of Krishna comes through disciplic succession from the bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master order should be taken as a prime duty of life. If one gets a bona fide spiritual master, acts according to his direction, then one's perfection of life in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed. Oh, Arjuna thought, my dear Lord, well, what if I don't do that? If I don't surrender, matpara, if I don't surrender to Krishna, Krishna says, all right, here for the text number 58. 58 to 60, Krishna talks about it. Very interesting, very, very important verses. Machita sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyasi atha chaitvam ahankara nashoshasi vinangshasi. What if I don't follow what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita? What if I don't contribute the results? What if I don't use the results in the service of Lord, etc., etc., whatever? Krishna says, Machita sarva durgani. If you become conscious of me, sarva durgani, Durga Devi. Sarva durgani means impediments, difficulty. Durga. Dur means difficult. Ga means gaman, who makes your journey in this world or exit from this world difficult. Durgani is impediments. Get the Sanskrit? Machita sarva durgani. If you are conscious of me, sarva durgani, you can very easily transcend all the difficulties. Very interesting, huh? All difficulty lies where? All impediments lies where? In future? In our destiny? On the road? In our neighbor's home? In your office? Where does all the difficulty impediment lies? Where does it lies? अरे अभी तक नहीं समझे. सैटरडे शाम को कंपल्सरी सबके लिए. Mind. It's all mind, nothing else. Na sochati, na akanksha. It's all mind. It's all mind. So why Krishna is saying mat para, surrender to me? Because that is how the mind gets purified. There is nothing outside. If in other words, there is no reality outside of us what we have created within our mind. For example, all of you are sitting here. Anyone of you really afraid of some nuclear attack happening anywhere right now? No? I can bet in you there will be so many people right now scared to their death. There अभी कहीं न्यूक्लियर बम तो नहीं पड़ गया? हल्का सा भी कहीं अगर दिवाली का पटाखा फूट जाए, पट करके, they'll have nightmares. Where? Let's say people living in Ukraine, always in a constant threat. Right now, post recent what Pakistan did to India, Pakistanis are peeing in their pant, thinking that India would anytime would have a surgical strike. America, Russia, things like that. There are people who are terrified, who are living on the border. They're terrified, or who watch too much news, they're terrified. Now, what is the reality of the world? The reality that you created in your mind. What you create in your mind is what you call as the reality of the world. That's it. So it's all about purifying your mind. And how do we purify? We purify of our attachments to matter. Mind over matter. That's the point. But Machita Sarvadurgani, Mat Prasada Tarishasi, by my mercy, Tarishasi, you will overcome all kinds of difficulties. Machita Sarvadurgani, Mat Prasada Tarishasi. So, two things. Let me put it this way. If you want Tarishasi, if you want Sarvadurgani Tarishasi, if you want to transcend all the difficulties, what do you have to do? Let me put it this way. If you want to live a peaceful life, and a fantastic example is Srila Prabhupada, Second World War. Japan is dropping bombs in Calcutta. And the friend of Prabhupada comes, hey, there is a red alert. There's a blackout. Hide. Abhay Charan, we have to go and take shelter. We have to go into the basement. The bombs are dropping. And Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Charan, as a guest at that time, was peacefully frying kachoris. And that time, Srila Prabhupada Abhay Charan made a statement, Krishna wants to protect somebody, nobody can kill him. Krishna wants to kill somebody, nobody can protect him. Now, from where did this response came? It all comes from the mind. It all comes from the mind. It's not from the body. Body is just an instrument. Response came from the mind. And what does it indicate about the mind of Abhay Charan? Machita sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyasi. So all fear, anxiety is nothing but stored within our mind. So we have to purify our mind. And how do we purify mind? As Krishna is talking about it. So if you want to have peace, peace can only arise. Fearlessness can only arise when we have taken shelter of the Lord. When we have taken shelter of the Lord, according to not our terms, according to Lord's terms. That's very important. Everyone says, I have taken shelter. I'm a devotee of Krishna. Everyone says, whoever comes to temple, I'm a devotee. But it is not you to decide. It is Krishna to decide if you are my devotee or not. Yes or no? Somebody comes and says, I'm your follower. Will you accept the follower? It is you who are going to say, I accept you as my follower. Yes or no? So it's Krishna to decide. Mat prasada, and when Krishna decides, Mat prasada tarishati, by my mercy, such a devotee transcends. However, atha chetvam ahankaran, parantu अहंकार के कारण नाश्रोष्यसि विनंशसि. However, if someone fails to take my shelter because of ahankar, such a person would be lost. Lost in where? Samsara chakra etasmin jantu jnana mohitaha. Chittaketu Maha says, so you're lost in the samsara. Puppet. A person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious about executing the duties of his existence. Please write down. What a profound statement. Golden line again. These are the things that you guys want to share on your Instagram handle. A person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious about executing the duties of his existence. And who is in full Krishna consciousness? Who is always serving Krishna. The foolish cannot understand this great freedom from all anxiety. The foolish cannot understand this great freedom. In other words, how to get freedom from anxiety. The foolish cannot. Who is the foolish? Namam dushkritano muda prapadante naradamam. For one who acts in Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna becomes the most intimate friend. He always looks after his friend's comfort and gives himself to his friend, who is so devotedly engaged, working 24 hours a day to please the Lord. Therefore, no one should be carried away by the false ego or the bodily concept of life. One should not falsely think himself independent of the laws of material nature, free to act. He is already in the strict material laws, but as soon as he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is liberated, free from the material perplexities. One should note very carefully that one who is not active in Krishna consciousness and losing himself in the material whirlpool, in the ocean of birth and death. So where he is lost? Samsara chakra etasmin. No conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done, what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. Think about it. How many of you, in case have an experience with leadership within ISKCON, would agree that our leaders take too much anxiety? Our leaders take too much anxiety. I'm not saying they are in anxiety, but they take too much anxiety. They're too much engaged in too many things parallelly. What is generally an understanding of devotee life or monkhood life? Relax. भगवान करेंगे ना सब कुछ. Jap करो. Yeah, there are Gaudiya Math, ये तो कहता है. That's the main reason a conflict in some of the Gaudiya Math ISKCON is, अरे तुम लोग 64 माला नहीं करते हो, भागते रहते हो, ब्रह्मचारी भी भागता रहता है. 64 माला नहीं करोगे तो कहा गया है तुम पतित हो. तुम 64 माला करो पहले, सिद्ध पुरुष बनो पहले. सिद्ध पुरुष के बाद जाना कहते हैं प्रचार करो. सिद्ध पुरुष से बनते बनते प्रचार के लिए कोई बचेगा नहीं तो प्रचार कहाँ करोगे? सिद्ध पुरुष क्या 2 साल में बन जाता सिद्ध पुरुष? है ना? So what was the point I was making? Started with what is ISKCON? How many of you agree? Have you seen? How many of you would say, or in case you don't know only, you have no experience, that's a different thing. So if in case you have seen that, yeah, our leaders are too much running around. Externally looks like they're in passion. Okay, and you may say, no, not like that. They're in goodness. They're serving Krishna. That you can only see if you understand what exactly goodness is. And third, I'm not yet sure about it. I am undergoing self-discovery. I will do leadership discovery later on. So what's your point? How many of you agree? So how many of you say, when you see externally, it looks like our leaders are really running around too much. शांति से नहीं बैठ सकते. एक प्रोग्राम करो, एक प्रवचन काफी है ना उद्धार करने के लिए. 5, 6 प्रवचन भागते रहते हैं. संडे को भी छुट्टी नहीं लेते. उनसे अच्छा देखो कर्मी है, संडे को आराम से लेट सो के उठते हैं. महाबलेश्वर, when we had a retreat, that's the only retreat we could organize for GBCs. So रामसुख रिजॉर्ट का जो ओनर था ना, तो उसको बोला हमने हमारे सारे सन्यासी रिट्रीट के लिए आएंगे. You know, the reality of the world is nothing but the reality that we create within our mind. तो उसका अंडरस्टैंडिंग द रिट्रीट मीन्स वो बड़ा खुश हुआ. चलो मेरे बहाने, मेरी सुविधा के बहाने GBCs को पहली बार सोने का मौका मिलेगा. So when we went there, we were doing some setup in a hall. He said, hey, what are you doing this? What's the setup for this? He said, this is where the GPs will come, have their gathering, interaction and all that. And like this. He said, what time the GPs will come? He said, somewhere around 3:30, 4 o'clock. He thought afternoon. मैं कह रही afternoon नहीं रे. ये सुबह. बोला बदमाश, तुम GPs को रेस्ट करने नहीं देते, रिट्रीट के बहाने लेके आ रहे हो, फिर उनको मॉर्निंग में लेके आ रहे हो. बोला हमारा रिट्रीट ही यही होता है. हमारा रिट्रीट का मतलब ही होता है, rejuvenation means what? Coming and just spending time with devotees, not getting engaged with management. That is rejuvenation. But for him, he could not tolerate the idea only. I remember the next morning when we brought Radhanath Maharaj and other devotees there, that I was there just outside, guiding all the GBCs that time just to, this is the venue. Then again he came, well, Madan, what is this? This is very bad. You guys did not promise me this before. I thought GBCs will peacefully wake up. He had arranged his own schedule for them. 8:30, we'll have some spa for them. They'll go, there was a big, expensive retreat center. Go for some, meditation. Pura arrangement kara hota. They'll have to go for spa or massage, then swimming pool. Then right next to the swimming pool, we'll serve the hot breakfast for them. Then they will go take some 2-3 hours of rest, come back in the afternoon. Hey, 3-4 बज गए तुम्हारे दोपहर में, तुम करो जो करना है. So anyways, so that's the question. So how many of you would say again, our leaders are too much running around? Seems to be in passion. वो तो सबको ही लगता है यार, तुम लोग सोचो नहीं हमारे लीडर गुडनेस में है, वो बात अलग है. बट एक्सटर्नली लुक्स लाइक दे आर रनिंग अराउंड टू मच इन पैशन. हाउ मेनी हैव हैड अ थॉट, यार थोड़ा शांत नहीं बैठ सकते क्या आप? थोड़ा धीमे करो ना गाड़ी को. इतना क्यों एक्सेलेरेटर पर पैडल दबा रखा है, एक्सेलेरेटर का पैडल दबा रखा है? थोड़ा पहले गियर में भी आ जा करो, छठे गियर में दौड़ाते रहते हो गाड़ी हमेशा. हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू हैड दैट थॉट, इफ इन केस यू हैव बीन अराउंड? या दैट्स द पॉइंट हियर. सो आई डोंट नो फ्रॉम वेयर वी स्टार्टेड, वेयर वी वेंट. आई काइंड ऑफ लॉस्ट चेन ऑफ थॉट्स. व्हाट वी वर डिस्कसिंग? 58. Why did I make this point? I don't know. Anyways, na shoshasi vinangshasi. But I can free to act. Anyways, text number 59. I kind of lost. I feel like I'm lost now. Atha chetum ahankaran na shoshasi vinangshasi. Probably I was speaking on my false ego. That's the reason I got lost. Text number 59. यद अहंकार नाश्रित्य नायोस्य इति मन्यसे मिथ्येष व्यवसायस्ते प्रकृतिस्त्वान् योक्ष्यति. Again, ahankaram. At this point in time, Krishna chastises Arjuna. Vishnu Thakur writes, if you do not act according to my direction, do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you'll have to engage in warfare. Purport. Arjuna was a military man. He had to fight. What can he do? But due to false ego, his fearing that by killing his teacher, grandfather, friends, he would incur sin. Actually, he was considering himself master of his actions, as if he were directing the good and bad results of such work. Is it right or wrong? Are we the master of our actions? Yes or no? Yes or no? Are we the master of our actions? Yes or no? How many say yes? Raise your hands. We are the master of our actions. Yes. Raise your hands. Those who are online can raise their virtual hands. Oh. No, we are not the master of our actions. No, we are not the master of our actions. Hariya, who is the master of your actions then? Huh? Prakriti kriyamanani. Okay, false ego. So you put all the blame game to material nature now. So somebody is caught doing criminal activities, and then according to Bhagavad Gita, when he's to defend himself, he says, मेरी क्या गलती है? प्रकृति देवी को पकड़ के लाओ, सारा किया धारा तो उसका है, आपकी शिक्षा तो यही सिखा रही है. I don't know what is that. Okay, what? 5 factors is the answer, correct? That's the reason we're talking about 5 factors. What is adhisthana tata karta karanam cha pratak vividha cha pratak cheshta daivam chaivatra panchamam. All right. But we'll come back to your question. But due to false ego, he was fearing that by killing his teacher, grandfather, friends, he would incur sinful reactions. Actually, he was considering himself master of his actions, as if he were directing the good and bad results of such work. He forgot that the Supreme Personality God was present there, instructed him to fight. That is the forgetfulness of the Ganesha. The Supreme Personality gives direction as to what is good, what is bad, and one simply has to act in Krishna consciousness to attain the perfection of life. No one can ascertain his destiny as the Supreme Lord can. Therefore, the best course is to take direction from the Supreme Lord and act. No one should neglect the order of the Supreme Personality Godhead or the order of the Spiritual Master, who is a representative of Krishna. One should act unhesitatingly to execute the order of the Spiritual Master or the Supreme Personality Godhead. That will keep one safe under all circumstances. Text number 60. Krishna continues, because you are conditioned, you are forced to act. Swabhavajena kaunteya nibaddha svena karmana Kartum nichasi yanmoha karshasi avashopitat swabhava jana, born of nature, Kaunte Sanukunti, nibaddha, your condition, swena, karmana, by your own actions you are conditioned. Kartum nichasi yanmahat, under illusion you are not declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. We recently read where Prabhupada wrote a fantastic purport from this chapter only, that how if a living entity is born to a body of a dog, is forced to act, he cannot help himself. He has to act like a dog. Just like example of Indra was cursed, he had to become a pig. Brahmaji came, Are, kya kar raha hai? Chal mere sang. Bola nahi, I'm enjoying hot delivery right from the sewage coming to me with my family, with my piglets. Now Indra Dev, who had heavenly pleasures available to him, now he cannot. Why? Because you're forced to act according to the body given to you by the material nature. Like that we are conditioned. So here's a very important point. Except for human species, there is no other species where we can change our conditionings. Except for human species, there is no other species where we can change our conditionings. And we all have to be very conscious. Even despite taking to Krishna consciousness, our conditionings, mental conditionings, are not changing or have not changed. Something is missing. We ought to change our behavior, our perceptions. Externally things change quickly. We take to the attire and everything. But along with that, there has to be a tremendous internal change. And therefore, it is called Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Under the rules and regulations, you have to follow. You have to follow. You like or dislike is not a subject matter to discuss only. You have to follow. Chant 16 hours. Wake up in the morning. Worship deities. Eat only Krishna Prasadam. This is called as reconditioning. Reconditioning the conditioned soul. So these rules and regulations are there to set us free from our conditionings. You cannot train a dog like this. You can train a dog to accept certain things externally, behave certain way, but you cannot change the nature of the dog. The nature of the dog would always be. But despite being practicing for days, weeks, years together, if we are not changing internally, our perception, our belief system, our way of dealing with each other is not changing, and there is some flaw, there is some missing. You're getting the point? That's the whole purpose of the Vedic scriptures, to help, to give direction to the human civilization so they can rise above their conditionings, like that. Purport: if one refuses to act under the direction of Supreme Lord, then he is compelled to act by the modes in which he is situated. Everyone is under the spell of a particular combination of the modes of nature and is acting that way. But anyone who voluntarily engages himself under the direction of Supreme Lord becomes glorious. Like all of you. Take an example. If imagine you were staying by yourself, if you were not following, if you were not the student of Bhagavad Gita, what time do you think you would have woken up? How many of you say 12 o'clock? Knowing yourself from past, what time, how many of you agree would have woken up? Let's say by 12 o'clock, how many of you think you would have woken up if you were not student of Bhagavad Gita? By 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, let's say by 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, let's say by 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay, let's say by 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so 7, because you have to go to office. Your office starts in the morning. Fine. So if you see, why those who would have otherwise woken up at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, or let's say 8 o'clock something, why are you waking up at 4 o'clock? Because you're willing to follow the instructions of Krishna. And what a very beautiful purport. Take a look again. It's a very small but very profound. If one refuses to act under the direction of Supreme Lord, then he's compelled to act by the modes, which means one who's not a student of Bhagavad Gita, this is what he does or she does outside. Everyone is under the spell of a particular combination of the modes of material nature. Don't be proud if you think you had been waking up 4 o'clock in the morning before. You're still under the modes of goodness. You're still not acting according to Bhagavad Gita. It's not about you waking up early or later. That's not the point here. But anyone who voluntarily, that's a key point, but anyone who voluntarily engages himself under the direction of Supreme Lord becomes glorious. So how many of you think you have become glorious? Raise your hand. How many of you think you have become glorious? The glory that you have now as compared to before is far much more. How many of you agree? How many have had that experience? That you're more glorious now? अरे सबको है। किसने तुम्हें पहले प्रभु बोल के सम्मान दिया था? हाँ, बताओ जरा। कोई इज्जत थी बाहर समाज में कुछ? कितनी इज्जत मिलती है तुम्हें भक्त समाज में, हाँ या ना? सी यू बिकम ग्लोरियस। यस नो, ये हंस के रहो, सही बात है, नहीं है? सच्चाई है। बाहर कौन धिक्कारता? तो बर्थडे के नाम पे लाते मारते थे तुम्हें। अभी बर्थडे के नाम पे ग्लोरिफिकेशन होता है, बिकम्स ग्लोरियस। यस नो? क्या मिलता था तुम्हें? वो आटे में लगी हुई सनी हुई रोटी मिलती थी, सूखी रोटी, और पानी वाली दाल बिना दाल के, सिर्फ पानी पिलाते थे तुम्हें। अभी देखो गरम गरम हॉट प्रसादम। आई पूछो अपने मैनेजर से आके पूछो कब आखिरी बार जीवन में उसने गरम प्रसादम खाया। सीरियसली गो एंड आस्क हिम। नो, आई मीन दिस इज सच अ प्रोफाउंड पर्पट, इज स्मॉल. You'll be forced to act according to your conditioning, but if you voluntarily accept Krishna's instruction, then your life is. This is something we need to understand. We should have a strong understanding. Then we'll move forward. Other, प्रभु जी मेरी श्रद्धा कोमल है, मुझे अभी श्रद्धा के तो सोच नहीं रहा, बुद्धि दी कहाँ भगवान ने तेरे को? Text number 61. Surrender to the super soul. Text number 61 to 63. ईश्वरा सर्वभूतानां हृदेशि अर्जुन तिष्ठति भ्रामयन् सर्वभूतानि यंत्रारूढ़ानि मायया. So the body, yantrarudhani, that's the body. Yantra is the body, is being awarded to you, and is being, so living entity is put under this vehicle, under the spell of Maya. Very interesting, very interesting. Let's take a look. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam. Where? Hridesh Arjuna Tishtati, in everyone's heart, O Arjuna. And Tishtati, situated. Brahmayam Sarvabhutani. And Brahmayam Sarvabhutani is kind of directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. Very interesting. So I want all of you to visualize, get this verse, get a sense of this verse. Imagine you're sitting on a big kind of a machine, like let's say JCB or something. I'm particularly using an example of JCB, but none of you know how to operate JCB, right? Imagine you're sitting in not small JCB, big JCB, double-decker JCB, big JCB. You're sitting in a JCB and you're kind of tied to a seat. You cannot set yourself free. And there is a voice command which says, all right, move your right hand in 45 degrees. JCB begins to move. All right, move your left leg on the left pedal, press it. JCB stops. So you're getting it? Do you know anything about JCB? No. You're tied to the seat, which means if you want to run out of JCB, you cannot run out of JCB. Everything is directed to you how to operate, because you don't know. This is what our condition in this body. How many of you know how to operate the body? If we knew how to operate the body, then we would have figured out why diseases are happening. Scientists are trying to figure it out, what this body is all of. They have no clue of it. Now, if any one of us think, enough of this body, I'll quit. Can you quit? Can you run away like this? You cannot run away like this. Unless you take the JCB and put it into a ditch or crash it with another JCB, which is called as suicide. What I meant by you cannot unlock yourself and out. So you're tied to this body. So now question comes, who have put you in this JCB? Who has put you in this JCB? अरे तुम्हारा अच्छा खासा जीवन चल रहा था, IT इंजीनियर. सोचो आज रात को सोने गए और सुबह उठा और देखा JCB में. सबसे पहला क्वेश्चन आएगा, कहाँ से आया मैं? I guess that's the time we'll ask a question, who am I? And where am I? Yes or no? Who am I and where am I? What the heck am I doing in this, even I'm saying JCB, you don't know even what that JCB or not. I say JCB, so you identify with it. So now who has put you into that JCB? Who has put you in that JCB? Who has put you in that JCB? That's the cause, correct. The immediate cause is material nature. Material nature has brought you and put you there in that JCB, that body. You're tied by the laws of the ropes of material nature. You cannot set yourself free. Now you have a voice which is coming from material nature, which is nothing, is an interesting machine, just like we are Pushpa Viman of Ravana. Pushpa Viman will go into any direction according to the desire of Ravana, isn't it? Similarly, this Pushpak, this JCB, let's make a more grosser example as this Pushpak one, is nothing. You have your desires, and some of the desires are heard by the material nature via the Paramatma route, as we have discussed, and the same desire comes back to you through that voice system, where it tells you do this, do that. But ultimately, who is doing that? It was your wish. You decide. Some of the desire got fulfilled. Now Krishna is saying, see, you can stay stuck here and suffer, or else there is another system. You can mount another voice system, whereas Krishna's Bhagavad Gita is going on. You can hear my voice and do what I say. And if you follow my instructions, I can set you free from your seat, from your, your rope which has tied you to the seat. What will you do in this situation? You're helpless. You're wondering, where am I tied? And suddenly something comes and you're forced to act. Move your left hand, leg, right. You have no idea, but you're helplessly forced to do it. How you helplessly forced to do it? Like you'll be helplessly forced to run towards the kitchen because prasadam. Food, hunger. How much ever you subside, you still eat. How much ever you satisfy thirst, you still drink water. Is helplessly acting or no, you're not? मुझे अभी खाना खाना है, मुझे अभी पानी पीना है, मुझे अभी सोना है, मुझे ये करना है, वो करना है. It's not under your control. And the voice keeps on saying, do this, and you're helpless. You imagine how many of you will be frustrated. अरे मेरा क्या है, मुझे अपना जीना है. Imagine that's what happens tomorrow morning. And now there is a box says Bhagavad Gita as it is. And Srila Prabhupada Krishna is speaking there. And he says, they promise, if you follow us, then we'll set you free. Now to follow Krishna, or let's say Prabhupada for that reason, you will have to do what? To follow them, you'll have to do what? To follow them, you'll have to do what? What is the first thing you have to do? What is the first thing you have to do? How can you stop listening? You have no control. What is the first thing you have to do? Huh? Listen what? सुन लिया, क्या करोगे? What you have to do? To be able to follow that, what you have to do?
Surrender.
Chanting. JCB में chanting करेगा तू? अबे मैं JCB को उदाहरण समझा रहा तेरे को. ठीक है. What will you, which is good, you do chanting, that's good. What will you do? To follow, if Krishna Prabhupada is saying something, what will you have to do? How can you act? You are not independent. Surrender का फायदा क्या है? Surrender कर दिया तो. What do you have to do? Action क्या है? हाँ? स्पीकर तो ऑन हो गया यार, चल रहा है ना भगवत गीता, ऑन है स्पीकर ऑलरेडी. एग्री करने से क्या हो जाएगा? एग्री तो व्हाट? तो ना तुम्हें 2 हाथ एक्स्ट्रा निकल आएंगे. What? Yes, Mother Induratika. What do you have to do?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, follow Guru's instructions.
अरे आवाज बढ़ाओ ना यार. भाई साहब अब दुनिया में अपनी थोड़ा साउंड बढ़ा दो.
Follow Guru's instructions and be in association of devotees.
Now, how can you follow Guru's instruction? You are not independent.
Read Bhagavad Gita. Only by hearing Shravanam. Hearing.
अरे श्रवणम हो गया. कृष्ण ने, अरे be in the example of JCB. Being the example of JCB. And now Krishna says, no, I want you to go left. How will you go left? The very first thing you have to do, I don't know, you can. JCB में भागेगा तू. रस्सी खोल देता तो कृष्ण की इंस्ट्रक्शन की जरूरत है? रस्सी खोल ही नहीं सकती ना तुझसे. देवी ईश गुणमयी मममाया दुरतिया. Yeah, what I don't know why you guys are not able to think. Huh? But how does it help? Stop listening to the first speaker. But you cannot stop listening because everything is tight for you. I mean, I expected a better response. You really failed. I should do Bhagavad Gita 10 times for all of you to get this. You have to become disobedience. You have to become disobedient to the instructions of material nature. That is the only thing you can do. If she tells you there are 2 voices going on in JCB right now, move right, and Krishna is saying move left, and you are forced to move right, you have to become disobedient to first become obedient. I will come to your question later on. You hear first properly. You have to become disobedient, which means I ain't gonna follow my urges. Unless we become disobedient in that direction, there is no question of obedience in Krishna consciousness. discipline, obedience, and submissiveness. So to disobedience to what? To the whims of your mind. एकादशी है, नहीं मुझसे फास्टिंग नहीं होता, फास्टिंग करो बच्चा बैठ के, no prasadam before 12 o'clock. If you cannot do it, you can never ever control the urge of sex. Please understand, these are bodily urges. As much as you have hunger for sex, hunger for food, similarly, which is produced of the body, similarly, sex is the hunger, is the urge of the body. The biggest thing that binds us in this material world is sex, the sexual inclination of the sex, to say that. So how can you ever control the urge of sex if you've not learned to tolerate the urge of hunger, the urge to speak? Unless you have done that, there is no way you can ever control the urge of sex. Impossible. Therefore, Rupa says, Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam. Those who are brahmachari, they have to have a proper control on the tongue. Which means they have to be very careful what they speak and what they eat. Therefore, I don't understand those who are in social media cracking jokes and speaking all kind of things. How can they really control their urges? Seriously, it's a bipolar thing. It doesn't work. Unless somebody is a Siddha Purush. Or else you're on the brink of collapse. Anytime. Something is just holding you, protecting you, but anytime you can really. Do you think the sexual urge is gone because I'm not engaged in sexual activity for days, weeks, years together? As long as you have body, you have the urge. When does the urge of hunger goes away from the body? If the urge of hunger cannot go away, how the urge for sex will go away? Because I've been able to tolerate. So never ever. Anyways, I've come to the brahmachari class in one sense, but just want to make that point where I started with JCB. So to be able to express our obedience to Krishna, the very first thing is, no, I will not follow you. Turn right, no. And you are helplessly driven in that direction. No, you have to restrain. And that is what gonna give you strength. Now gradually. Have you ever had that? Hand challenge. Right? It's just like hand challenge with Maya. It's just like a hand challenge with Maya. You have to work hard. It doesn't work like this. It's not that, हाँ यहाँ मुड़ेंगे, यहाँ मुड़ जाएंगे, वहाँ मुड़ेंगे, वहाँ मुड़ जाएंगे, मुड़ते मुड़ते कहीं पहुंच जाएंगे, गड्ढे में जाके गिरेंगे और क्या गिरेंगे. It doesn't work like this. So anyways, our time is up. Where were we? Which was? 60th was we were talking about it. Such a beautiful, right? No, 61. Did I add the puppet? No, we didn't add the puppet. But you got the point of it. The puppet, I can quickly read the puppet in that sense. I'll read the only highlighted part of the puppet. In the middle of the puppet. The living entity gets what he deserves and is carried by material body, which is created in the Haribol. The living entity gets what it deserves and is carried by the material body, which is created in the material energy under the direction of the super soul. As soon as the living entity is placed in a particular type of body, please pay attention, he has to work under the spell of that bodily situation. A person seated in a high-speed motor car goes faster than one seated in a slower car. Though the living entities, the drivers may be the same. Similarly, by the order of the Supreme Soul, material nature fashions a particular type of body to a particular type of living entity so that he may work according to his past desires. The living entity is not independent. One should not think himself independent of the Supreme Personality Godhead. The individual is always under the Lord's control. Therefore, one's duty is to surrender. And that is the injunction of the next verse. Take shelter. Very, very important 60th and 61st verses. Too good. 61st verse. Brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrarudhani maya. If somebody says, no, I'm independent, so question can be raised. So what are you doing in this human body? If you think you are independent, what are you doing in the human body? And what are living entity doing in the body of a dog? Alright? No, they are not living entity, we are only living entity. If he's such a foolish person, then you can ask him, did you choose your parents? Or did the parents choose you? Did you choose this body? I mean, the moment you say no, then which means you're not the controller. Yes? What is the meaning of the controller? Control means I decide. Right? For example, the CEO of the company, he is the boss. He decides. He can decide to go to office or not. He can decide what is the paycheck he gets or not. Yes. He can decide how much profit to keep. He can decide how much profit to share. He decides what's your schedule. So you ain't the CEO of your life. The life is not dictated or run by how you want it to live. What's the question of the sense that I'm independent? Not possible. So if we look from this perspective, it is very clear we are conditioned and we are controlled by material nature, which helplessly forces us to fulfill our own desires. And we are stuck into it. And now enters a devotee like Prabhupada, who is speaking the message of Bhagavad Gita and telling us, hey, कितनी बार मरेगा? बहुत खतरनाक है, बार बार गड्ढे में जाके गिरा देता है, फॉलो नहीं करने का. प्रॉमिस बहुत बढ़िया देगी मटेरियल नेचर, सुख सुख एंड सुख एंड सुख, सुख के अलावा कुछ नहीं, बट सिर्फ दुख एंड दुख एंड दुख. I mean, look around. I was just speaking to one of my friends recently. I mean, I've just got in touch with this friend of mine after 10 years or something, more than 10 years, 10, 12 years. Very big manager in very big bank in Australia, in a very top position. So the moment I asked what up with you and all that, and when the friend of mine shared, I said, oh, the very first thing, we are so conditioned, the moment somebody says, I'm on a top position, a very high position, we immediately think, सब कुछ अच्छा चल रहा होगा, चंगा चल रहा होगा, हाँ या ना? Subtly we think सब चंगा चल रहा होगा. And the next question I asked, how is uncle, auntie? And the friend, my friend replied, oh, they both passed away. Huh? Passed away? Young? Husband uncle जाते, auntie जाते, समझ आए? Both passed away. I was taken aback by shock. I said, I have not seen, this is like my childhood friend. I said, oh, really? I didn't got a chance to meet uncle and auntie again. They passed away. And then I asked, what happened? So a friend said, during the COVID, my father got some kidney problem, got admitted, and he got COVID, and he passed away. And then after that, my mother developed some heart problem, and early this year, she passed away. And then my friend said, last few years of my life had been very painful. I was like, Dukhalya confirmed. If somebody who's in such a top position, look what is going on. Suffering. No happiness. How many of you agree somewhere subtly we still have an aspiration thinking that अगर अच्छी position पे चला गया ना और पैसा अच्छा खासा मिल गया ना तो जीवन सुखमय रहेगा? Raise your hand. It's very deep conditioning. Look, I mean, such a top position in a bank, no dearth of money, everything full. But mother, father died at such a young age. I was so sad. I was thinking, my goodness. I mean, how much we should start preparing for our life thinking that the end is tomorrow. If the end is tomorrow, then we'll be able to say no to Maya. But if you think end is day after tomorrow, someday in future, तो थोड़ी बहुत तो इच्छा पूरी कर ही लेते हैं ना, थोड़ी बहुत ही इच्छा. And attempt to trying to fulfill some of the desires, we go so far away, it is very difficult to come back. I'll make a last point, I'll pass here for today. How many of you have met senior citizens who have been working around for, let's say, all their life? And how many of you say they look like mentally deranged? They cannot sit peacefully. उनका चलता रहता कुछ ना कुछ, शांत बैठ ही नहीं सकते. Raise your hands. Those who have been working out in the corporate world, particularly, who had 7-8 hours of job. I'm not talking about farmer. I'm talking about this. How many of you karke? They're too restless. They cannot sit. Raise your hand again. हमें बताया जाता है अभी मेहनत करो, 60 के बाद रिटायर होना. देखो रिटायर आदमी की हालत क्या है. Look at what is the situation now. When now you're working, you're at 20s. When they were in 20s, they were working in the times of 70s and 80s, where there was no work pressure. You guys, at the time you're working, I mean, I don't know how many of you would be living beyond 50 also. Or would you even have a retirement age? Think about it. It's a fact. How many of you would even have a retirement age? So, माँ बाप कहते हैं बेटा अभी मेहनत करो, रिटायरमेंट का शांति देना. तो ask them, रिटायरमेंट एज देखने को मिलेगी? रिटायरमेंट एज देखने को मिलेगी? एविडेंस दो कि रिटायरमेंट देखने को मिलेगी मुझे पहले। आप रिटायर हो गए हो, चलो आश्रम में वृद्ध आश्रम शुरू कर रहे हैं, आओ रहो वहां पे जाके नाम जो करो। नहीं बेटा तेरी शादी के बाद। शादी का बोला क्या, पोता दे, विपोती दे, अब उनका एजुकेशन देखना है हमें, तो सभी तुम करोगे तो हम क्या करेंगे? नहीं 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 नहीं। So it's all just joke, is all just joke goes around like this. I guess I'll pause here. I should not speak too much. It's online. All right. But this is not the fact about it. So Hare Krishna. I'll pause here this discussion. Jagadu Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So where we ended kind of a thing?